Picture this. A man walks alone through the corridors of corporate power, unbothered by the political games swirling around him. While others scramble for validation and approval, he builds his empire in silence. The world looks at him with a mixture of confusion and fear. Who is this man who doesn't need their permission to succeed? You see, gentlemen, society has a peculiar relationship with the Sigma male. It creates him through adversity, forges him in the fires of isolation and hardship, then recoils when it sees what it has made. The world doesn't just misunderstand the Sigma, it actively fears him because he represents something they cannot control. A man who has learned to thrive outside their system. Today, we're diving deep into this paradox. We're exploring how pain becomes the Sigma's greatest teacher, how isolation transforms into his superpower, and why the very traits that make him successful also make him society's greatest enigma. This isn't just another self-help video. This is the truth about how legends are born in the shadows. If you're ready to understand the real psychology behind the Sigma male phenomenon, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is your gateway to mastering the art of strategic independence. And trust me, what you're about to learn will change how you see yourself and your place in this world forever. 1. The crucible of creation. Every Sigma male has an origin story, and it's never pretty. It's not the fairy tale narrative of the chosen one who was born special. No, the Sigma's story begins with rejection, abandonment, betrayal, or trauma that would break most men. But here's the crucial difference. Where others see destruction, the future Sigma sees construction material. Think about it. Society creates hierarchies, social ladders that everyone is supposed to climb. From childhood, we're taught to seek approval, to fit in, to follow the established patterns. But what happens to the boy who doesn't fit? What happens when the system rejects him before he even has a chance to understand it? This is where the Sigma begins to emerge. Consider the teenager who's bullied for being different, not quite fitting into any social group. While his peers are learning to navigate social acceptance, he's learning something far more valuable: self-reliance. He's discovering that his worth doesn't come from external validation, but from internal strength. The pain of rejection becomes his first lesson in independence. Or think about the young man whose family fails him. Absent fathers, narcissistic mothers, broken homes that teach him early that people will let you down. While others might become codependent or desperate for approval, the emerging Sigma learns the opposite lesson. If you can't depend on others, you better learn to depend on yourself completely. The corporate world provides another perfect example. The employee who refuses to play office politics, who won't kiss up to the boss or throw colleagues under the bus for promotion. He gets passed over repeatedly, watching less competent but more socially savvy colleagues climb the ladder. Society tells him he's failing, but what's really happening is that he's being shown the game isn't worth playing by their rules. This rejection isn't random, it's systematic. Society has a way of identifying those who won't conform and pushing them to the margins. But here's what society doesn't understand. By pushing the future Sigma away, it's actually giving him the greatest gift possible: freedom from the very system that constrains everyone else. Each rejection, each disappointment, each moment of standing alone against the crowd, these experiences accumulate. They don't create bitterness in the true Sigma. They create clarity. He begins to see that the game everyone else is playing is rigged, not in favor of merit or truth, but in favor of conformity and manipulation. The crucible of creation is painful, but it's necessary. Just as metal must be heated to extreme temperatures to be shaped into something strong and useful, the Sigma must endure the heat of social rejection to be forged into something unbreakable. The pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. What separates the true Sigma from those who simply become bitter outcasts is this: he learns to see his isolation not as abandonment, but as liberation. While others are trapped in the endless cycle of seeking approval and fearing rejection, he's discovering what it means to be truly free. The world creates the Sigma by rejecting him, but in doing so, it creates its own nemesis, a man who can succeed without permission, who can build without approval, and who can lead without following their rules. The very forces that were meant to break him instead make him unbreakable. This is why understanding your origin story matters, gentlemen. Your pain wasn't random, it was purposeful. Your rejection wasn't failure, it was redirection. The world didn't break you. It made you into something it cannot control, and that terrifies them more than they'll ever admit. 2. Pain as the ultimate teacher. Here's what the self-help gurus won't tell you. Pain is not something to be avoided or quickly healed from. For the Sigma male, pain is the most effective teacher he'll ever have. While society teaches us to run from discomfort, medicate our struggles, and seek constant validation to soothe our wounds, the Sigma learns to sit with pain and extract its lessons. Every rejection teaches him about resilience. When the girl he loved chose someone else, when the job he wanted went to a more connected candidate, when friends betrayed him for social gain. These moments that would send others into therapy or despair become the Sigma's graduate school in human nature. Pain teaches the Sigma to trust his instincts over popular opinion. When everyone told him he was wrong to walk away from that toxic relationship, but his gut said run, pain validated his intuition. When the crowd mocked his unconventional business idea, but he felt it in his bones that he was right, pain taught him that being alone and right beats being accepted and wrong. Consider the man who loses everything in a business partnership because he trusted the wrong person. While others might become cynical and bitter, the true Sigma extracts the lesson. Verify everything, trust, but verify again, and always have an exit strategy. He doesn't become paranoid, he becomes strategically careful. The pain of loneliness teaches him the difference between being alone and being lonely. While others need constant social stimulation to feel alive, the Sigma discovers that solitude is where his best ideas are born, where his clearest thinking happens, where his authentic self emerges without the distortion of social pressure. Financial struggles become lessons in resourcefulness and delayed gratification. When he can't afford what others take for granted, he learns to create value from nothing, to find opportunities in problems, to build with his hands and mind rather than with daddy's money or social connections. Professional failures teach him that the traditional path isn't the only path. When he's fired for refusing to compromise his principles, he learns that integrity has a price and that he's willing to pay it. This lesson separates him from those who sell their souls for security and social acceptance. Even physical pain becomes a teacher. The hours in the gym, the discipline of training, the pushing through when his body wants to quit. These experiences teach him that comfort is the enemy of growth, that strength comes from doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. Emotional pain teaches him emotional independence. The heartbreak that would have others seeking rebound relationships or emotional validation teaches him that his emotional state is his responsibility alone. He learns to process pain without dumping it on others, to heal without making others responsible for his happiness. The pain of being misunderstood teaches him that explaining himself to everyone is a waste of energy. He learns to let his results speak for themselves, to ignore the critics and focus on the craft. This lesson is crucial because it frees him from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval and defending his choices. Each painful experience adds a layer of wisdom that can't be gained through books or lectures. It's experiential knowledge, burned into his psyche through trial and error. While others avoid difficulty and seek the easy path, the Sigma learns that easy paths lead to mediocre destinations. The world looks at the Sigma's relationship with pain and doesn't understand it. They see someone who doesn't complain, doesn't seek sympathy, doesn't make excuses, and they mistake this for coldness or lack of feeling. But the truth is the opposite. The Sigma feels everything deeply, but he's learned to alchemize pain into power. This is why pain becomes his competitive advantage. While others are paralyzed by the fear of discomfort, he moves through it. While others need support groups and constant reassurance, he faces challenges alone and emerges stronger. Pain doesn't break him because he's learned to dance with it, to learn from it, to grow through it. The ultimate lesson pain teaches the Sigma is this: you are stronger than anything life can throw at you. Not because you're invincible, but because you've proven to yourself repeatedly that you can survive, adapt, and ultimately thrive regardless of circumstances. 3. The fear factor. Now we get to the heart of the matter. Why does society fear the Sigma male? It's not because he's aggressive or threatening in the traditional sense. No, the fear runs much deeper than that. Society fears the Sigma because he represents the ultimate rebellion, the rejection of their fundamental premise that you need them to succeed. Think about how social systems work. They're built on interdependence, on the idea that everyone needs everyone else, that success comes through networking, politics, and playing by established rules. The alpha male, for all his dominance, still operates within this system. He seeks to be the king of the hill, but he acknowledges that the hill exists and that others must recognize his position on it. The Sigma does something far more threatening. He builds his own hill. He doesn't seek to dominate the existing hierarchy. He creates his own parallel structure where he's not competing for position because he's the only player in his game. This terrifies those who have invested everything in the traditional system. Consider the corporate world's reaction to the successful entrepreneur who left the company to start his own business. There's always that mixture of admiration and resentment. The admiration is obvious, but the resentment comes from a darker place. He proved that their system wasn't necessary. He showed that success was possible without climbing their ladder, without playing their politics, without needing their approval. The fear is existential. If one man can succeed independently, what's stopping others from following the same path? What happens to the power structure if everyone realizes they don't need permission to build their own success? This is why society works so hard to keep people dependent, to convince them that they need the system more than the system needs them. Women often have a complicated relationship with Sigma males because he challenges their traditional understanding of male value. He's not seeking their validation, not trying to impress them with status symbols or social proof. He's genuinely indifferent to their opinion of him, and this creates both attraction and confusion. A man who doesn't need her approval is both exciting and threatening to a woman used to having power over men through their desire for female validation. The business world fears the Sigma because he's unpredictable. You can't buy him with money alone, because he's not motivated purely by financial gain. You can't control him with social pressure because he's comfortable being an outsider. You can't manipulate him with status games because he's created his own definition of success. This makes him dangerous to those who rely on traditional forms of control. Politicians fear the Sigma voter because he's not loyal to any party or ideology. He thinks independently, researches thoroughly, and makes decisions based on his own analysis rather than group identity. He can't be mobilized by emotional appeals or tribal thinking. This makes him useless to those who profit from division and predictable voting patterns. The media fears the Sigma because he doesn't consume their product uncritically. He questions narratives, seeks multiple sources, and forms his own opinions. He's immune to manipulation through fear, outrage, or social pressure. In an attention economy, a man who guards his attention carefully and thinks independently is their worst nightmare. Even other men fear the Sigma, though they might not admit it. His independence makes their dependence obvious. His strength makes their weakness apparent. His authenticity highlights their masks. Being around a true Sigma forces other men to confront uncomfortable questions about their own choices and compromises. The fear manifests in different ways. Sometimes it's direct hostility, attempts to tear him down, to prove he's not as special as he thinks he is. Sometimes it's subtle exclusion, being left out of social groups, professional networks, or opportunities. Sometimes it's mockery, calling him antisocial, arrogant, or weird. But here's what those who fear the Sigma don't understand. Their fear validates his path. Their attempts to pull him back into the system prove that he was right to leave it. Their discomfort with his independence confirms that independence is valuable. Their fear is his proof that he's on the right track. The most insidious form of fear is the attempt to co-opt the Sigma, to bring him back into the fold by offering him a position at the top of their hierarchy. "You're so talented, you should be leading our organization." This sounds like recognition, but it's actually an attempt to neutralize the threat he represents by making him part of the system again. The true Sigma recognizes this for what it is and politely declines. He understands that accepting their offer would mean giving up the very independence that made him valuable in the first place. He'd rather build his own kingdom than rule someone else's. This fear isn't going anywhere. As more men discover the Sigma path, as more people realize that independence is possible, the fear will only intensify. But that's not the Sigma's problem. He didn't choose his path to make others comfortable. He chose it to be free, and their fear is simply the price of that freedom. 4. Society's double standard. Here's where the hypocrisy becomes crystal clear. Society preaches independence while punishing those who actually achieve it. They celebrate self-made success stories while simultaneously trying to drag down anyone who refuses to play by their rules. On one hand, they glorify the myth of the self-made man. Every motivational poster celebrates the individual who overcame obstacles through personal determination. "Pull yourself up by your bootstraps," they say. "Be independent," they preach. But watch what happens when someone actually does this. When a man truly becomes independent, stops seeking validation, stops participating in social games, suddenly he's antisocial, he's arrogant, he's not a team player. The truth is that society wants people to believe they're independent while remaining fundamentally dependent on the system for validation and success. They want the illusion of independence without the reality of it. Consider the entrepreneur who becomes successful without following traditional paths. If he started with family money, he's celebrated as a visionary. But if he started with nothing and succeeded through pure determination, suddenly the focus shifts to what's wrong with him. In relationships, they preach that men should be confident and self-assured, but when a man is genuinely confident enough to be alone rather than settle, he's labeled as having commitment issues. They want confident men, but only confident enough to still need validation. The workplace claims to value independent thinking, but watch what happens to the employee who consistently challenges conventional wisdom. Despite being productive and valuable, he's often passed over for those who play the social game better. Even personal development circles show this hypocrisy. They sell independence while creating communities dependent on gurus and courses. True independence would mean not needing their products. The Sigma sees through this manipulation clearly. Society's encouragement of independence is conditional. You can be independent as long as you're still dependent on their approval of your independence. This double standard serves a purpose. It maintains the illusion of choice while ensuring compliance. People believe they're free to be independent while being subtly punished for actually achieving it. Understanding this is liberating because it reveals the game being played. Every message encouraging independence comes with invisible strings attached. The true Sigma stops playing the game entirely and pursues genuine independence without seeking society's approval of his independence. 5. The price of independence. Every form of power comes with a cost, and the Sigma's independence is no exception. The price of true independence is higher than most people are willing to pay, which is why so few actually achieve it. The first cost is loneliness, not the kind from having no one around, but the deeper loneliness of being fundamentally misunderstood. The Sigma often finds himself surrounded by people who simply can't comprehend his mindset. Consider the successful entrepreneur at a networking event. Everyone wants to talk to him, but nobody understands the years of solitary work, the countless rejections, the nights spent building while others were socializing. He's surrounded by people, but completely alone in his experience. The second price is constant vigilance. When you operate outside traditional social structures, you can't rely on social contracts to protect you. The Sigma must be constantly aware, constantly prepared to defend what he's built. Financial independence comes at the cost of early comfort. While peers enjoyed steady paychecks, the future Sigma invested every dollar back into development, lived below his means, and took risks others wouldn't dare take. Relationships become complicated when you're truly independent. Many are attracted to strength and success, but threatened by someone who doesn't need them. The Sigma's independence creates an invisible barrier. Partners appreciate his strength initially, but feel insecure when they realize he doesn't need their validation. Family relationships strain when the Sigma refuses traditional roles. Parents may never understand his unconventional choices. Siblings may feel judged or resentful. Holiday gatherings become exercises in translation. There's also the cost of complete responsibility. When you're truly independent, every success and failure is entirely your own. There's no one to blame, no safety net, no group to share the burden of difficult decisions. Perhaps the highest price is losing innocence about human nature. The journey requires seeing through social illusions and understanding manipulation tactics. Once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. But the Sigma pays these prices willingly because he's calculated the cost of the alternative. Yes, independence is expensive, but dependence costs even more. The prices he pays aren't punishment, they're investment costs, buying him more freedom, authenticity, and control over his destiny. 6. Mastering the art of invisible power. This is where the Sigma transcends from being independent to becoming truly powerful. His power operates on a completely different frequency than traditional dominance. While alpha power is visible and loud, Sigma power is invisible, silent, and self-sustaining. Invisible power begins with emotional independence. The Sigma has mastered being unaffected by others' opinions or manipulations. When someone tries to push his buttons, they discover there are no buttons to push. This isn't coldness, it's strategic emotional autonomy. His power is invisible because he doesn't need to announce it. He doesn't wear status symbols or brag about achievements. His confidence comes from internal validation, so he has no need to prove anything. This confuses people used to power being displayed and performed. Financial power becomes invisible when living below his means, regardless of income. He might be wealthy, but you'd never know it. This invisibility protects him from exploitation and allows him to move without the complications of obvious wealth. The Sigma influences without obvious manipulation. He doesn't try to control people directly because that would make his power visible and create resistance. Instead, he influences through example, through strategic positioning, through being someone others naturally want to emulate. Physical power remains invisible through discipline rather than display. He stays in excellent condition not to impress others, but to ensure readiness for challenges. His presence commands respect without requiring demonstration. Communication power becomes invisible through saying less while meaning more. He doesn't fill silence with unnecessary words or explain himself constantly. His words carry weight because he uses them strategically rather than compulsively. The ultimate expression of invisible power is the ability to walk away from anything that doesn't serve his highest good. Jobs, relationships, opportunities others would desperately cling to. This willingness gives him negotiating power because he's never negotiating from need. Mastering invisible power requires understanding that true strength doesn't need proof, real confidence doesn't need display, and genuine value doesn't need marketing. The Sigma's power is invisible because it comes from within, rather than external sources. This invisible power is what the world truly fears. They can handle obvious power because they know how to compete with it, but invisible power operates outside their understanding and beyond their control. They can't fight what they can't see or destroy what doesn't depend on their approval. The Sigma's invisible power isn't just strategy, it's a way of being. It's the natural result of years of development, self-mastery, and independence. It can't be faked because it comes from genuine internal strength. This is why it's so effective and why it terrifies those who rely on visible displays to maintain their position. The journey we've taken today reveals a fundamental truth about human nature and social dynamics. The Sigma male isn't born, he's forged. Every rejection, every moment of being misunderstood, every time he was forced to stand alone, these weren't setbacks. They were the hammer strikes that shaped him into something unbreakable. Society creates what it fears most, a man who doesn't need its approval, doesn't seek its validation, and can't be controlled by its traditional power systems. The Sigma represents the ultimate paradox. He's the product of social rejection who becomes socially powerful. The outcast who builds his own kingdom, the man who was pushed away only to realize he never needed them in the first place. We've seen how pain becomes the Sigma's greatest teacher, transforming every hardship into wisdom, every setback into strength. While others run from discomfort, he embraces it as the price of growth. While others seek comfort in conformity, he finds power in independence. The fear factor reveals society's deepest insecurity, that their entire system of control depends on people believing they need permission to succeed. The Sigma's existence proves that permission is optional, that success is possible outside their approved channels, that freedom is achievable for those willing to pay its price. The double standards we've exposed show how society preaches independence while punishing those who achieve it. They want controlled rebels, managed mavericks, approved individualists. The true Sigma sees through this manipulation and chooses authentic independence over the illusion of freedom. Yes, independence comes with a price. Loneliness, misunderstanding, constant vigilance, and the weight of complete personal responsibility. But the Sigma pays these costs willingly because he's experienced the alternative. He's seen what dependence costs: your authenticity, your freedom, your soul. Finally, we've explored how true power becomes invisible when it comes from within rather than from external sources. The Sigma's strength doesn't need to be displayed because it's real. His confidence doesn't need to be proven because it's genuine. His value doesn't need to be marketed because it's undeniable. This is why your journey matters, gentlemen. Every challenge you face, every moment you feel misunderstood, every time you choose your own path over the crowd's approval, you're not failing, you're becoming. You're transforming into something that the world both created and fears, a truly independent man. The world tried to break you, but instead it made you unstoppable. Every rejection was redirection. Every setback was set up for a comeback. Every moment of standing alone was training for the day when you'd lead from the front while others follow from behind. Don't let this knowledge stay locked in your mind. Subscribe to this channel and join a community of men who understand that strength isn't about fitting in. It's about standing out on your own terms. Hit that notification bell because we're just getting started on this journey of strategic independence. The world needs more men who understand their true power, who've been forged in pain and emerged as forces of nature. Remember, the world forges sigmas in pain, then fears the very strength it helped create. That fear isn't your problem. It's your proof that you've transcended their limitations. Their terror is your triumph. Their confusion is your confirmation that you're on the right path. You are not broken. You are not antisocial. You are not missing something that others have. You are evolved. You are advanced. You are what happens when a man refuses to accept limitations and chooses to forge his own destiny. The world made you this way, and now they must deal with what they've created. Welcome to your power, gentlemen. Welcome to your independence. Welcome to being truly, authentically, dangerously free.